2011, 2012, I keep going back and forth because they kind of play off each other. 2011 really was this year where I thought I was going great. You know, I'm 15 years old. It's great. I was very awkward. You know, I remember I started liking girls when I was 8, and that was way before I knew the birds and the bees and all that stuff. I just knew that, like, and I remember I had my first crush when I was 8. I liked this girl, made her a bracelet, and I said, I love you, and then her name on it as an 8-year-old. And I remember 2011, I write a letter to this girl who I think, oh, she's great, she's nice, you know, and she likes coffee, so I'll give her $10 for coffee. And that whole note situation just blew up in my face. I thought I was just like, oh, trying to be nice, be awkward, you know, because, you know, when you're 15, 16 years old, you're not like thinking in deeper terms of like, oh, this could be a relationship, or oh, this, but it's like, well, you put a foot forward, and I got my foot in my mouth. People made it sound like it was really, really bad, like a 15-year-old leaving into it for a 16-year-old girl. Yeah. And in 2012, that's the year that I really wanted to change things. I wanted to have a new identity. I wanted to, be perceived as a mature 15, 16-year-old. And so I remember working this summer camp for Boy Scouts, and we're asked to read different parts of the employee manual out loud, and I butcher it. I'm a terrible reader out loud. I'm better now. I've read 11 books this year, but I just didn't apply myself because I just was like, I was lazy. I remember everyone laughing at me because I did a terrible job reading it out loud, and I got instant feedback because of that. The camp director brought up, hey, we're gonna think about not having chapel because we don't have a chaplain. Is anyone opposed to that? We're just not gonna have it. I remember standing up and saying, I'll do it. It was one of those moments where I'm like, okay, I haven't found my church place yet. I haven't found my church home, but I'm wanting to step out in boldness. And the chapel services, I was nervous. I did okay on that. I invited some people to speak. I remember one guy said, I'm not really Christian, but, and I'm like, oh no, I should have filtered a chapel service. And word to anyone, know what somebody's gonna say at chapel service before they say it, because you might get something that's counterintuitive. 2012 was filled with like good things like the Avengers and fun movies, going to see Brave and going to see Hotel Transylvania with your family. You know, that was one of my special memories with my sisters. And one of my sisters opted to move out, and it shifted the whole dynamic. You know, all three of us, you know, we fight. We're siblings, you know, and they sometimes get heated. So when my sister moved out, there was mixed emotions where I was like, okay, she moved out, she's on her own. Things are a little more free, you know. I get to kind of do my own thing, you know. It's just me and my older sister, you know. It's gonna be a different dynamic, and it was. I remember that November when my sister moved out, I also went to this potluck at this church, and it was this church. It was a good size. I said I wanted to go to the Thanksgiving thing, and my mom was very supportive of it. My dad was a little hesitant because he was worried about my social skills. I'm going to give you advice to anyone. You're just going to learn by trial and error. And I was like, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And my dad was hesitant, but he's like, fine, you can go. And I go to this event, and I just have the best time. I meet people that are my age, a little bit older, and I'm like, oh my goodness, there's a really, really cool dynamic. And then we met this worship leader who's super awesome and super nice. And I was just like, man, this is a really cool church environment, and we should go to this church. I eventually get involved in the youth group. But before that, the biggest thing of how I got involved with youth group was this: intentionality. I remember I was sitting towards the front of the sanctuary, and I would listen. You know, I love to be up close. I love visually to be up close. I remember this girl in front of me would say, you should come to youth group. You know, I had several other people invite me to their youth groups and stuff, but I was like, okay, well, maybe, you know, see if my parents want me to be involved with the youth group, because my siblings had been involved in youth groups that were not so good. Then 1 week later, it's service again, Sunday morning, and I'm like, God, please let her ask me again. This is a sign from you. And she did. She invited me again. She said, I really think you should be involved in youth group. And just that act of intentionality, it changed the direction of my life. I started coming to youth group I was the awkward homeschool guy that would always wear jeans. I wore jean shorts. You know, looking back at photos of me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I was a bit of a dork, but at least I was trying to be nice. So by this time in 2013, I was finishing up in Boy Scouts. I didn't get my Eagle. Directions were changing. Our troop was going to disband. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't want to go for one more year just to get my Eagle with some other troop until I turn 18. So I opted to go with a different organization. That summer was really transformative because I went to Falls Creek for the first time. My dad went to Falls Creek. He said it's an amazing week. You're gonna love it. And he was, at this time, he had seen that I was socially pretty good. You know, I was doing fine. I was making friends. That's one gift that God has given me is friends. You know, that put up with me. At Falls Creek, I just remember feeling so overwhelmed with like, this is a real cool environment to be in this giant tabernacle with these people where it's all these students who are worshiping God all across the country. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I was just like, oh man, this is cool. I was just in awe each night. And I remember just like getting back, I'm like, this is the best week of my life. It really was. And you know, I also, when we would go, was like 2 or 3 days before my birthday usually, or it would land on my birthday a couple days after. And I just remember it was just a good, like, this is the end of one year, the start of another. And going to Falls Creek those years was just so meaningful.
I really hope you enjoyed this part of my story. Below in the description, I have some more stories that I wasn't able to share in my testimony. I filmed this on September 30th after getting about 4 hours of sleep, so I left out quite a bit throughout each part, but hopefully those will fill in the gaps, and they might create some prompts for some questions that you can ask with some friends or loved ones. I hope you enjoy this, and can't wait for you to watch the next part.